Buenos días a todos y a todas. Vamos a abordar el segundo día del seminario anual que tenemos de EAPN y hoy abordaremos el estado de bienestar como pieza clave en la estabilidad política y económica y social de Europa. Para ello, contaremos con tres grandes expertos en sus diferentes ámbitos y abriremos un espacio de reflexión y debate sobre el sistema de políticas, derechos sociales que nos ofrecen la protección a todos los ciudadanos y especialmente a los más vulnerables. Para empezar, vamos a tener una primera intervención de Diamantopoulou, es presidenta de DIKTIO, Red para la Reforma en Grecia y Europa. Es un destacado grupo de reflexión no partidista con sede en Atenas. Fue comisaria europea de Empleo, Asuntos Sociales e Igualdad de Oportunidades y ha ocupado a lo largo de sus años profesionales diferentes cargos en el gobierno griego. Ana nos va a hablar del futuro de bienestar, qué principales retos y el rol que debe tener la Unión Europea dentro de este nuevo modelo de sociedad en la que estamos inmersos. Espero que todo el mundo haya cogido en la entrada para los de los intérpretes y cuando quieras, Ana, gracias.
Okay, do you hear me now?
Hola.
Okay. Thank you very much for this invitation. Good morning to everybody. And it's really a pity that I cannot be there. Although Athens is very far away, I mean, Athens and Bilbao are the two ends of Europe. I had confirmed my presentation, but for very personal reasons, it is impossible. I think that all these discussions are really very important and very urgent because, as you have already said and written, things are changing, the world changes day by day. And referring to welfare state, of course, now we agree all that it is very important for Europe. This was not the case the previous 2 decades, because there was so many arguments and political positions that welfare state is not so important and it is a burden in the economy of Europe. And then crisis, one after the other, came, and particularly the COVID crisis and then the energy crisis after the war made it very clear that welfare state is still the diamond in the crown of Europe. And this welfare state was the reason that really the European Union and the member states proved that the economy and people can be alive because of this contribution, of the welfare contribution. Of course, after the pandemic, I think it became very obvious that there is a new term in our vocabulary, in our welfare vocabulary. And this is the word resilience, which means that there is a need to prepare our welfare state and to prepare ourselves for what is coming. So, two words, future, which is not very clear, and resilience. Strengthening then the welfare state is also crucial in making our societies resilient, ensuring that we'll be able to withstand any form of crisis and, in fact, turn crisis into opportunities. So, the high-level group, where I was chairing for 1.5 years, worked a lot on the new reforms needed for the welfare state, the new megatrends, which are now in our lives. We do not just predict them, but new megatrends are already in our lives. And we have proceeded with some recommendations important for the European Commission and the member states itself. So I will try in in this 15-20 minutes to underline and to focus on the most important issues of the report. But I really recommend to people who work on these issues to read these 120 pages, because there is a lot of data, so everything has been documented. There are many best cases and some worst cases that we can work with. There are some new ideas concerning the way that governments have to approach the welfare state. And in the recommendations, I think that each government, or not only governments, but big civil society organizations as EAPN-ES, can play a new role and have some new implemented policies in place. So, welfare state, I think that it is interesting to see that in the 20th century, the European welfare state had played a very important role and particularly has guaranteed the economic security of the elderly and of the vulnerable people to a quite great extent. And how it has done it, the main idea was based on income-based financial support. Now, in the 21st century, in addition of what we have done in the 20th century, it is important to understand that we have to guarantee fair employment opportunities for young people, because this is the main issue, and to prioritize social investment. So it is not only social infrastructure which is important. Social investment in 21st century, and because of the changes which are taking place, and I'm going to speak about them, social investment is extremely important. Now, in our report, we started with the megatrends. There are many megatrends in the 21st century. We have worked on 4 of them, the most important, and we have seen them horizontally. What is the impact of these megatrends in welfare state and the particular areas of welfare state? So, the first one is digital transformation and digitization of the social and labor sphere. There, we can see that there are changes in our economy, in the way that companies work. We have seen that new policies concerning taxation and cooperation between member states, and not only that, at a welfare and a worldwide level are needed, because the new way of digital companies have created many new opportunities, but we know that there are many problems concerning the taxation, which means the revenues, the government, the state revenues. On the other side, digital transformation can play a very important role in reorganizing the welfare state and the social services. And last time I was in Spain, I saw that what you have done in matching the personal data on the economic personal data and social data is very helpful, because the welfare state policies can really focus on people who have problems and not just horizontally, because we are at the economic level in all Europe that we cannot have horizontal particular policies. Sorry. So, a final word or 2 main words on digital transformation is that digital skills will be the main issue, and this means that we need a revolution, a digital revolution on educational systems and lifelong training systems. We don't see it. We can see only in a few states, in a few countries. We can see more in Asian countries. The second big issue is the demographic changes. We feel it everywhere. I mean, it is not only the aging population, but low fertility rate in the majority of member states, migration and intra-EU mobility, changes in family structure, diverse incidents of poverty across age groups, and shrinking workforce. So all these issues have, first of all, an impact in the labor market and in the pension systems, which are pillars of the welfare state. The third megatrend is the changing world of work, which lead to an increase of employment rate across the EU, and we have an increase according to our data over the last 2 decades, but we do not have an increase in labor income. On the opposite, we have a decrease in the labor income. The second impact is that we have a persisting underemployment for a number of socio-demographic groups and regions. And the third one, we have an increase in non-standard forms of employment. Non-standard means many issues. I will show you a PPT in that. But particularly, we have new forms with platforms, with crowd working, with gig economy, etc. And the fourth mega trend, it is the climate change and the digital and the green transition. We have put them together, but there are different issues there. So when we are talking about climate change and climate crisis, we have a catastrophical impact because of the disasters of the climate disasters, floods, fights everywhere in Europe. And the green transition means that all our industry, all our companies have to change their procedures and their equipment. We have to change the way we build our houses. So we have to change the way what we eat and how we live. So, taking into account the impact of these 4 megatrends, we have proceeded with some policy options. We have identified policy options for adapting the welfare state in response to these challenges. And you can imagine that it is not easy because there are so many different megatrends, and there are so many different policies included in the social protection systems. And at the same time, the situation in member states is not the same. We have big differences in the organization, the economic situation, even the political approach and the cultural approach from member state to member state. So we studied all these issues, and we made clear that there is a need of an holistic approach, and we presented from a life course perspective. So we presented it with the 3 main stages of early and family life: working life, family life, working life, and retirement and old age. And we made it very clear through data that the way that the social protection system intervenes at the first stage and the children, it is very important for the pensioners and for the older aged people over 75 years old. In the report, we studied a lot on the financing. We reflected on the financing of social protection. We all know that we need more money. We have more and new needs, but we have less money. And we have new priorities because of the wars, because of the change in the geopolitical situation. There is less money on the table of the governments. So there you can see different approaches concerning the combination of taxation systems, and social contribution systems. And I think it is important because, as I told you, we cannot have one recipe. It is there are so many differences from different countries. Now, after presenting these policy options, we proceeded with the recommendations, and I would like to focus a bit on that. So I would like to see the slides, and we see together the slides. It is very simple, and I tried to show and to see together what are the main indicators in this Europe that we want to work. And then I worked a bit on the Spanish indicators. Now, here you can see, as we discussed about the life perspective, the life cycle perspective. Concerning children, in Europe in 2021, almost 1 in 5 children were at risk of poverty. Where in Europe? In the continent with one of the most generous and well-working welfare states in the world. Concerning the young people, 16.5% of 20 to 35 years old were neither in employment nor in education and training in 2021, which means that for these young people, there is no future for the time being. We can see the young people and the older people, and here we can see the number of persons aged 75% is expected to rise, increasing demand for pensions, health, and long-term care. And going to the changing world of work, so the working age, which is extremely important because of the working age depends everybody else. We can see that 40% of workers are in non-standard forms of work. It means temporary, part-time, self-employment. And at the same time, 2/3 of the self-employed people worked on their own. What it means, let me give you a number, because I told you that you can find a lot of data in the report. For the self-employed people, which is about 14% of people, of employed people in Europe, they pay only 3% of contributions. And that means that for these people, there will be problems when they are out of working place, or when they are pensioners or old people. So here is a big problem that we have. We need big changes. And of course that 9% of workers are at risk of poverty at the European level, the working poor. When we go now to Spain, if we can go to the next slide. Okay. More or less, it is exactly the same thing, but we can see what the situation in Spain is now. Spain has a total child population of 825 million. 33% of them lived at risk of poverty and social exclusion in 2021. So things are even worse. Concerning the young people, things are better. 12.7% of young people in Spain were neither in employment or nor in education. So here things are better, and young people now have found a roadmap for their lives. Regarding the older people in 2021, aged 65 years old and over, are 20%, but in 2050 they will be over 30%. So 1 out of 3 will be more than 65 years old. And let's go to the next and last slide. It is particularly on a changing world of work. And here we can see that in non-standard forms of work, we have self-employment 15.3%, part-time employment 12.1%, and 2022, and in temporary employment, it's 21. So we can see that it is more than 45%. And 48%, so almost 50% of people are in non-standard forms of work. And we can see the problem in self-employed as well. So in Spain, the risk of poverty for working people aged from 18 years and over, it is 13.9 for males and 11.2 for females. All these numbers are from the Eurostat and from the Spanish services. And I presented them. Now we can, you can log it off. Look, you can, I can come back to the screen. Thank you. I presented this European and Spanish situation just to understand or to make it very clear where we are at the European level. And now I come to a few of these, taking these into account and taking the mega trends into account. I'm coming to some of the recommendations. So children first. As we saw, there is a problem of a big problem of children poverty at the European level. So our proposal, and we have worked on that with many European organizations and with OECD, and we have seen other countries outside Europe. Our first important recommendation is that all children under the age of 3 should have access to high quality, full day early childhood education and care services. So education and care, not just care services, is what the Anglo-Saxon call educare, thereby fostering early childhood development while making it easier for people to reconcile work and family life, and for women to be in employment. These services should be affordable for all families and free to all those with children in need. The second important issue for children is that member states should provide targeted minimum income protection and capacitating services for vulnerable families, particularly with these families with children, because it is very important to prevent child poverty. And you have a lot of data and experience on this. When you start your life in poverty, then it is very obvious that you will have less opportunities during the whole of your life. Now, let's go to the young people. We now, for us, because we have a consultation with many youth organizations, it was very important and shocking to hear that one of the first problems that these organizations put on the table is the mental health of young people. It is because of COVID. It is because of big changes, big and urgent and sudden changes in our society and in families. And of course, it has to do with this digital generation. I mean, this generation, it is digital natives. They have lived in a totally different world. They learned first to write in their phones or in the computer and then on paper. So for young people, because there is now a problem that they don't have independence, we see that they have more difficulties to be included in the labor market, in the society. They live with their children. They cannot have independent houses. So member states should have in place adequate financial support, services, and again, I underline the need of mental health services in schools and in working places, and in kind benefits to enable people when they wish to start a family and have children. And of course, there is a need for the European Commission to reinforce youth guarantee programs and to strengthen the possibility of young people to have high quality education, and particularly training and technical and education for technical professions. The third main area of recommendations have to do with care provision and the long-term care, which is extremely important. The number of persons over 65 is expected to rise, as we saw. And of course, there is an increasing demand in pensions, in health systems, and in long-term care. One of the major issues is the long-term care, because as we have already seen, there are only a few countries which have organized long-term care. For the time being, in the majority of countries, and particularly in the south, we have women from third countries. Many of them are not registered, they're not legal, they are not trained. And in many countries, it is the women again, women after over 50 years old, who have to leave their jobs and to have to take care of their own family members. So it is, I think, one of the priorities now to organize public long-term care systems. And here, we have worked, and we give some particular recommendations for member states for the role of the third sector, of civil service society, because all this kind of services cannot just be public and state services. We need local authorities, and of course, we need civil organizations. And when we talk about civil organizations, we very much underline the need of standards and of evaluation. And evaluation procedures are very important for civil society, with the participation of European civil societies or other, but with external organizations. Now, as we saw in the working age, the numbers and how many people are not in permanent jobs, and unfortunately this is growing and growing. So we have many and more people in non-standard work. This means that these people do not always have access to social protection system, and of course to pension system. This is extremely important, and we have 3 or 4 recommendations on that all people in employment, in any kind of employment, irrespective of their work status, should be able to access and contribute to adequate social protection and contributions, should take account of all sources of income. Such social protection should be accessible throughout the life course, maintain a decent standard of living. So I think in many member states, there is a need to see again the contribution, the social contribution system concerning the non-standard working. Now I'm concluding with the last area of recommendations, which is sustainable financing. As I told you, we have worked a lot on the role that the role that taxation system plays, and a role that the European Commission has to play in fighting competition, in fighting tax competition. So, regarding regarding the role of European Union, there are three important recommendations. The first one is that EU fiscal support for social investment reform should be put on a permanent basis and not only to confine and to mitigate, and not only to be confined on mitigating the socioeconomic aftershocks, the socioeconomic aftershocks of the COVID-19 crisis. So, through the new European instruments, there is a need to to focus on the social investment. The second issue, which is quite which always brings a lot of hot discussions, it is that the EU and member states should consider a European agreement on minimum tax rates on capital and harmonized EU rules on capital taxation to strengthen the potential basis for funding social protection and to help to avoid competition on social protection standards. I could give you the example of my country, which is the case in many countries in Europe. You don't have, because of your geographical situation, this problem. Because of difference in taxation of companies, when Bulgarian entered the European Union, only from the north of Greece, 100,000 companies left Greece and went to Bulgaria because there was such a big difference in taxation policies, and this happens in many European, in particular in Central Europe. So there is a need of an agreement on this competition of taxation. And the third idea is, and the third recommendation is that we need a golden rule for public finances. And that means that because of the need of social protection and the role that it plays in employment, in raising of the productivity in many countries, and of course for social reasons, this golden rule should allow the governments borrowing for social investment in a starting phase in social infrastructure, and then for social investment. So, I tried to answer all your questions. Your last question is what would be the title of this? Not easy to have a resume, to have a conclusion in a few words, but I could say that employment is in the center. Without reorganizing the labor market, we cannot have the revenues needed for the social protection system. So employment in the center, and children first. Employment in the center of our policies, and first priority, the children, and to fight the children poverty. Thank you very much.